Which brings me to Shimpaku and why I found Shimpaku to be quite special. Now, even when I first started, Juniper procumbens, Juniper prostrata, Juniper communis, all these other junipers that we work with a lot of. Like we work with a lot. I mean, a lot of us work with those because it's easy to come by. And we started off, a lot of our beginner classes had prostrata and procumbens. And I started with them and I was like, great, wire them up, style them up, look after them. Hey, why did that branch die? Hey, why did the top die on that tree? Why is it getting this disease that kills the whole branch off? Oh, it's so frustrating. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but that's what I found with a lot of, down our way, trees were just doing that all the time. Members coming up to us, why is a branch dying? Why is it looking brown on the inside? Why is it doing this? Why is it doing that? And I can't even answer that sometimes. Sometimes it's a fungus, sometimes it's something else. But I got frustrated. And then it was more about what other junipers are out there. And then you see online, you see that in Japan, they've got Shimpaku, like this much more compact foliage. It's nice and different. So I was lucky enough, I was actually very lucky, about 15 or 20 years ago, I found a couple of nice big stock plants, they're just stock, straight, boring, absolute boring, straight trunks, right? Nothing special. But they had all these branches coming out, all right? So I started just air layering the branches off. And I was trying air layering, trying to figure out how to air layer the best way, time of year, so on and so forth. Air layering became one of my favorite things to do because I found a very good success rate with Shimpaku, and it's very easy. As long as the branch is healthy and strong, you put what air layering is, how you ring the bark and put sphagnum moss and put a ball, and it depends how you want to do it, but that's how I do it. As long as the branch is healthy, if you do it in August, you can take it off by December and it should be full of roots. 3 months, 3 to 4 months. And it happens, I'm almost 100% success at that, doing that. And it's that's how I started my Shimpaku collection, because guess what? You couldn't find Shimpaku anywhere. And if you could, you get a little stick like this for $20 or something ridiculous. Like it was very expensive to find Shimpaku, and cheaply. That's probably one of the biggest disadvantages of Shimpaku is it's expensive. Now there's a lot more stock, so it should be coming down in price, but you never know. I know there's some $10 ones over there. That's ridiculous. Like that's so cheap to get those little $10 pieces of stock, honestly. So that's probably the advantages of Shimpaku. They don't get that dieback. I haven't had branches just die on me. None of that. The only disease I think they might get attacked by spider mite if it's too shady or too damp. They might get spider mite. They get this white aphid, like it's a very white aphid, very easy to get rid of. I usually spray it with a hose if it's on there and it disappears. But that's about it. They don't have that dieback, which is probably the thing I hate the most, is just branches dying for no reason. That's the one. I think it's juniper scum, not aphid, the white one. Yeah, very easy to get rid of. It not even that hard. If you spray it with some insecticide, it'll be gone, but you can spray it with a hose and it's gone. It's very easy. The other point is the foliage. The foliage is absolutely beautiful to work with. It's very compact. It's very dense. It makes beautiful clouds of foliage. It makes it easy to make clouds. Within a couple of years, you can have beautiful pads with the foliage. Also, it's not prickly. Have you tried prostrata and had procumbens? How prickly that is, especially when they die. They start dying back. It's so prickly. This, not even one. Like, you won't even hurt your hands. No gloves, nothing. You can just work on them and off you go. All right. So this is a piece. You look at this piece. This is just a nice multi-trunk tall piece, bit of stock. This is an air layer I took off the parent tree that I was talking about. Those 2 trees I had before. This is probably an air layer I probably took about 4 or 5 years ago. I can't even remember exactly. And it wasn't very big, maybe that big, but I'm growing it on because this is the next generation of air layers. Does that make sense? So now I'm planning ahead saying, okay, I'm going to keep growing and I'm going to start to air lay branches off this in the future. So the parent trees are still going, but I want more. I'm greedy, just want more and more because I love it. So that's how I'm planning. So plan out what you want to do with your trees as well. Think 5 years ahead, think 10 years ahead sometimes, okay? You can do that. These don't take very long. I mean, this is nice material, but you know what? If I air layer this, I can get better, smaller material, like smaller trees and do stuff with. So that's an air layer. Very easy. As I said, August, put the air layer on, take it off in December. Pretty much full of roots. I just use the sphagnum moss method, and plastic around it. I don't do the pot. I don't do soil. I don't do anything other. I don't do those balls. You know, you can buy those balls online. Because the other thing is with my air layers, sometimes I wire my branches, wire them up and twist them up, and then I air layer it underneath the branch. So when I take it off, it's already got a twisted tree. So you can't get that on. You can't get those balls on if it's all twisted up and intertwined and so on. I've got other better, thicker material that I'll probably wait a little bit. With this one, I probably want to put bends and twists in it and then air layer it. Because I found you save a year or two in terms of getting bends and twists. Because when you start bending and twisting, they slow down a bit. And you probably need another year or two to recover. So it takes a bit longer. But if you do it like this, it's in a pot still, growing very strongly. And it just keeps going. Like it's much faster to develop the twisty trunks. And we'll talk about twisty trunks in a minute. Then if I air laid this now like that and had 2 branches, that would have to establish for a year in a pot, or 6 months to a year before I can bend it. So do you see what I mean? So I'm saving a bit of time, just growing it on a bit faster. Yeah. Just give some more water. Okay, so how do I play around with material like this to get into something like this? You know, that's where you want to get to, right? So this is all achieved from wiring your trees. You've got to wire your trees. You can't do junipers, pines. You can do maples without wire. Like you have to wire your junipers, have to wire conifers, have to wire pines. Maples, I get away with just wiring maybe the primary branches, the main branches. And once they establish, you can start just doing clip and grow. It's very easy. But these guys, you have to wire. Now, you probably see how heavy a lot of these trees are wired, and there's a reason for it. Because in my demonstrations, I don't want to wire trees in my demonstrations because you guys will fall asleep. I love wiring, but you guys don't want to watch me wire. So I always promise when I do these demos, because I'm prepared. I mean, if you gave me a tree to work on, that's a different story. I have to wire in front of you, right? But because I've prepared myself, I've already pre-wired my trees. But I've left one bit of wire that I have to put on because I want to show you guys how I do it. So I'm just going to put one wire on a tree, and that's it. I promise you. There's no other wiring I'm going to do. I'm just going to bend and twist and show you how I create the tree rather than the things you have to do before you create the tree. All right. So I'm going to start with this guy. Now, if you see my channel, you've seen this. I do this quite a bit. It's not like I'm not shy to do it, but it's just what I do. And don't get too worried about the tree. Now, I say to people, sometimes they can bring, people bring to me in workshops stock like this. And it's in a bonsai pot already. And it's like, oh yeah, look, this is my bonsai. Does it look old? Does it look old to you? No. Does it look like a miniature tree in nature? No. It doesn't resemble anything, but they see it's in a bonsai pot and it's a tree in a bonsai pot. And that's a bonsai. But, for us, we know that there's more to it. You've got to create the age. Now, how do you create age in a young little thing like this? All right. So the only way you can do that is compact the tree, make it smaller, and make it look like some sort of older tree. Something that's a bit more ancient. You could put, what's another way to make a tree look old? Gin, deadwood. Yeah, gin, deadwood makes a tree look old. Probably too young for this guy. It's a bit too young still. But one technique I learned, because the other thing is you've got to learn from different people. So Han from Balak Bonsai, he's really good with black pines and how he twists them up and creates different trees and so on. So I said, why don't I apply those techniques to Shimpaku and see what happens and see what I can create. Now, I have seen Shimpakus with, subtle movement, but I didn't like that. I wanted something more extreme. So then I just started to heavily wire my trees. Now, I've got a piece of wire on here. Now, if you can notice that the wire is probably close to the thickness of that trunk. It's close. Usually we taught that it should be half or a third the thickness of the trunk. Does that make sense? Usually. But this is almost the same thickness. Now, you don't really do that normally. And the actual spacings between each wire is much more tighter. It's much more smaller. It's about 30 degrees. They say, the books and stuff, guidelines say 45 to 60 usually, but I can't do that. If I did 45 to 60 and I tried to bend this straight, it'll snap. I found that if I have nice tighter coils, smaller spacings, it acts like raffia. You know what raffia is? Raffia applied to trunks to protect it from splitting and so on when you bend and twist trees up. So I'll put 1 meter wire on this trunk, and I'm going to put a bit of wire on this one as well. So just like normal, you just start as per normal. I anchor the wire into the pot. And this should be easy because I should just be able to follow this. So as I said, I'm only going to put one piece of wire. And this is the wire. And it's easy to work with doing this kind of stuff when you've got a roll with you, because then you actually don't know how much you need. Because sometimes they say do a third longer, right? When you're wiring a branch, a third longer. In this case, because I'm doing tighter coils, I probably need this much longer. You know, it's it's probably half as much longer. So I'm just going to wire it. I'm not being too rough with the tree. But the other thing is you need to make sure you got a healthy tree to do this. Don't do it on sick trees. Don't do it on trees that you've just taken air layers off and going to do it straight away. It won't work. You've got to give it 6 months to recover at least. You know, make sure they're healthy trees because this is quite harsh what I'm going to do to it. Has anyone done this kind of work before? Anyone tried it? Yeah? Cool. Have you guys found it easy or is it difficult or did you have any luck? Yeah? I was inspired by one of your YouTube videos many years ago. That's good. Yeah. That's true. Nothing dies. It actually recovers. If the tree's healthy, it actually works. So usually when I got no one help, like I'm at home, I put it between my legs. It's the only way to get it done. It's just, sorry, I'm making a bit of a mess on the floor. It's about 5 mil. Yeah, usually I'll use 6 if it's a bit thicker. So anywhere between 5 and 6 is the best, I found. Anything less doesn't really hold in this, what I'm going to do today. No, not really. So I'm getting there. I told you it's only one bit of wire. I won't be wiring anything else. I hope. Almost there. So usually when I've gone to WA a couple of times to do workshops over there, and when I do this, they just freak out. They just can't. They can't believe it. It's like, what are you doing? Crazy. And then if it's a workshop, it's their own tree, and so they really freak out. When it's my tree, I'm not really fussed. No. Oh, yeah, actually, good. Who asked that? That's a good question because, yeah. Now, it's really interesting because all my work on my Shimpakus are between end of summer, from the end of summer all the way through to winter, to start of spring almost. I don't do any work on Shimpaku in spring. There's a reason. You know why? Does anyone know why? Sorry? The growth of the tree. Who said that? I can see someone through their voice. Who said that? Growth of the tree. Growth of the tree. You've got to let the tree grow. All right. If I'm starting to do this, I've tried, and I put this on and went straight away. Crack. Because the sap's flowing so quickly in through the tree. The sap's flowing so much that just the cambium just tears. It just tears apart every single time. And you've got to let the tree grow. The tree grows, photosynthesis, roots grow, that whole process grows. Summer they explode in terms of the trunk thickness, I found. Summer's when they put on the girth of the trunk. So it's really good. Don't touch them even in summer. And then at the end of the summer, that's when they start to slow down and I start to work on them. It's when they slow down, you can do anything you want to them, which is a good time. So I'm glad all my demos and workshops are actually in this time of year because I can do this. But yeah, sorry, Dean.
I was just going to say I do a lot of the gins in summer. That's a good time to do.
Yeah, gins you can do the gins and it'll dry the wood pretty quick. Yeah. But if you want to try and wire and bend, and it's a bit risky. But if you've got a gin work, that's good. Okay. Yeah. Lime sulfuring, yep, summer's the best time too. So now I've got 2 branches that have wired. Now it's a matter of, hey, what can we do? What can we try and create with this? I don't know. I promise you, I don't know what I'm going to do to it. I'm just going to try something. I'm just going to try different techniques, try and create something that's interesting and it's got movement and so on. So The other thing I've done is I've put the wire on in this direction. So, hey, what's the direction? Is it clockwise? Is that clockwise? Yes, clockwise. But I don't say clockwise. I just think about the end of it, right? The end of the wire coming underneath the branch and it's pointing at me. Okay? Does that make sense? See how this wire is pointing at me, coming towards me? Now you can wire it this way and pointing at you, right? So if it's pointing this way to me, I'm going to bend the tree this way to me. If that's pointing away, when it comes underneath, it's going to go to you. That's how I think of it. Is that easy? Or clockwise, anti-clockwise? I don't know which way. I found that's the easiest way to explain which way to apply the wire and which way to bend it. So however you apply it, you've got to bend it that way. Okay, so in that case, this underneath part is pointing at me, so I'm going to wire it towards me. Now,
Otherwise, it undoes, it tightens up.
exactly. So I'm thinking I might do a little apex with this, and this is some sort of cascade or small cascade. Okay, let's have a look. We can get it around. Like the other thing is it's very long. Okay, it's a very long branch. So when you got a long branch, the first thing I usually do is go backwards, and then come around. Because guess what's happened? I've shortened that long branch because I've gone backwards. Does that make sense? I'll show you. I'll show you how it works. So that's pretty easy. I've got a really nice easy bend there. Now I'm just trying to play around and see how I can go with this. Are you listening? Who's doing that? Don't do those. Those noise sound effects are terrible. That's my bone. It's okay. Probably semi-cascade rather than cascade. So that's very quickly something a bit more interesting. Very just simple zigzagging, nothing special. Okay, went backwards a bit to shorten it, then zigzagged it and try to create a pointy bit for the end of it. So if that's the front, you can see how that kind of looks. Just as a nice little semi-cascade branch. Not a cascade. If you go full cascades are good, but they're hard to store. I've got a huge juniper cascade. It's got a beautiful little top, and the cascade's stunning. But you know how hard it is to transport that damn thing? Trying to put it in a show, you forget about it. You've got to take up so much room. But anyway, semi-cascade. So now that's kind of a nice little start. So now I'm just going to put this into here. Sorry, I have to look at it. Now, I have wired it this way, but because it's so tall, I really want to make it nice and compact. So I really got to think about getting it small as possible. Again, go backwards to shorten it. Because the beauty of this is, the other thing that happens is junipers have so much foliage, right? They're usually full of foliage. When you've got all these twists and so on, and when the foliage grows, you can't actually see all these crazy bends you got inside. All you see are these beautiful foliage pads. Okay? Does that make sense? So sometimes you don't necessarily see all these crazy juniper twists and turns. So I've got a nice little branch down here. I don't know if you saw that. It's just hanging. I'll probably let it grow to be a sacrifice branch. Do you guys know what a sacrifice branch is? Yeah. So luckily I've got one. So it helps thicken up the trunk. So I just let that grow. So the same techniques always work, Sacrifice branches are sacrifice branches. That wasn't me.
How long before the branch will sit, David? What, 6 to 9 months?
I usually give them anywhere between, because this is quite stressful, so I at least give them a year, at least. Even if the wire's cutting in a bit, I don't mind. Junipers, don't worry about if the wire cuts in. Doesn't matter. It'll grow out, or you can put shari on it. It looks great as well. But I'll give them at least a year to recover from this. If you've got fantastic growing conditions, if you can get lots of sun to these guys, lots of water, lots of food, lots of sun is probably the number one thing. But got to keep the water up. If you can get heaps of sun, these things grow like crazy. They love sun. they love water, they love food, they love air circulation. They don't like shady, damp conditions. They just hate it. I've only got a courtyard. I hate to say it, I've only got a courtyard. And I find it hard to grow some of these sometimes because there's too many. I've got too many. So all my priority ones get the best spots, if you know what I mean. The other, my stock doesn't get as much sun as it should. Like Han from Bali Bonsai, he's got Shimpaku he's growing now. It's on his roof. On the roof of his, I know you guys have heard stories, right? It's actually on his, I've been on his roof. I've seen them. So they're physically on, and you should see the growth he gets. It's explosive. It's massive, right? He waters and feeds, but he gives them sun pretty much all day long. Like it's sun. If it's sunny, it's going to get sun. So that's the thing with Shimpaku. They love sun. They love it. And the more sun you give them, the more they grow. And look at that. Just a nice little, can you see that? Roughly, quickly designed, quick, nothing special, quickly designed, blah, 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 blah. It's done. But I've got to leave it now for a year. Okay? That's why you've got to have like 50, 100 of these. It's good. Trust me, it's good. You don't love it to death then. You know what I mean? Have you heard that term? You love it to death, love your bonsai to death. Right? So this is a nice little semi-cascade, little apex, little semi-cascade branch. Very quick and easy. Now, does that look more like a bonsai in a pot? Even if you put that in a bonsai pot, it still look better than those two sticks that were going up in the air. All right, from $10 now to $100. Do you know what I mean? Just an example. All right, did you see that? That's pretty easy. I think that's easy. I think everyone can do that, right? Just get used to the wiring. Make sure the coils are not as far apart, 30 degrees, and usually about the same thickness as the trunks, okay? Usually close to. Now,
It's not even that, but is that, you doing it the normal tightness that you wire anything else?
I'd say it's a little bit slacker. Yeah, it's not as tight, nowhere near as tight as, you wouldn't do right on the trunk or really tight. You can't even do it because it's so thick wire and the trunk, it's really hard to get around it at that thickness. There's always a space. Just think of it as apply it as best you can and it works. You know, there is a gap. Everything tightens up as well. All right. Just wanted to show you. So if this one was probably done, or maybe I can't remember, but it's a kind of similar one. It's probably been 6 months like this. See, I've just let it grow. Haven't let it do anything. That's going to happen to that. I'm just going to let it grow and establish that trunk. Now, I always have a look at the wire. See, it's not even cutting in yet. So I'm not going to take it off. It's not going to hold. It's not going to do anything. So having a close look, you can see that this is a very similar one. That's got a funky, semi-cascade. You can always start to tweak things. Like if you after a while, just improve the shape if you want. Always play around with them, move them around, tighten them up. The other thing is, eventually what happens also is you might find you've wired out all these branches and they're not the best, but they're all twisted, right? So what would that really make? If it's not going to be a nice branch with foliage, what can you make that nice twisty branch into? A gin, right? It looks really cool. Have a look at the Japanese Shimpakus, and they've all got those nice twisty old gins coming out of them. So that's the other thing. Always twist up your trees. Don't have too many straight on your Shimpaku especially. Make sure they're all bent and twisty. All right. Now these next ones are a bit further along. Okay, this has probably been a couple of years wired. You can see it's a bit more shape. It's a bit more like it's got all these twists and turns into it. It's really kind of cool. Haven't really finalized the design yet. I don't even know where the front is. I think it's in here. I think I was trying to do a little tree here and maybe another one here and an apex, but that's not probably going to work. So probably in the future, one of those will be a gin. Do you see what happened? Like that might turn into a gin, or this might turn into a gin. That might be the top. Things like that. I'm playing around with those ideas. Okay, so that's it. That's the next phase. That's a couple of years away. So if you think about it, this is a timeline of a Shimpaku design. So this is your stock plant that you've taken an air layer off. Okay, you've air layered a tree. Give it a year, let's say, for the air layer to establish in a pot. Then we've wired it up. Okay, let it grow on for 6 months. Is it worth working on? Maybe, yes, no. Play around with it, tweak it a bit more. Keep going. A couple of years later, still working on the tree, designing it, and getting a better tree. Maybe 3 years in, you start to get something a bit more tighter, starting to come up a bit nicer now. Starting to work on the pads, starting to work on the branching. You're starting to wire all the little branches. Gets knocked out in the card, doesn't it? But you start to work on the padding, so then you can see a nice little semi-cascade branch there, apex there, starting to come up really nice. That's only probably 3 years in, maybe, from air layer. Wouldn't even be that long. It's very quick to, as I say, very quick to develop. And if you've got a nice sunny spot, you can get it even better. Again, that was an air layer not long ago. All right. These are other examples as well, like some nice smaller ones that you can work on. So this is a really cool, if you want one single trunk, you can see how that's a nice, can you guys see how nice and twisted up that is? That's going to be a nice little tree in the future. It's just going to be a little apex and nice twisted up. That's probably this in about maybe 10 years time. So this is a nice twisted up trunk, and the foliage pads, I'm now just really starting to work on foliage pads. But the trunk's pretty cool. And you can see all the shari, come have a closer look later. But that isn't too similar to that. Okay? So that's probably, 5 to 7, I reckon, and you get that. What else have we got? Yeah, similar, another twisted up. They really come have a closer look and see a bit better how that looks. All right. So we've gone to process, maybe the 3-year mark. Now I wanted to show you a couple other things. I've got a couple of things that I want to do today. I don't know if you had a close look at this little guy. It's one of my favourites in the collection. It's gorgeous, right? But have a look at you got to come have a look at these little trunks. They're really small and twisted and so on. Like if you start early enough, you can get a really, really good little tree. Now these little twists and turns, there's a twin trunk. You can probably see a twin trunk with a little semi-cascaded apex. It's a great little tree. In here, I've got very similar trunks, but a little bit bigger. You'll see there's 2 trunks. Can you guys see the 2 trunks? Now, I want to try and create something with this similar to that. Now, this has just been air layered, and then I've bent the trunks, and they've held. So this is probably a 5-year tree from that phase. But what happened is a lot of the lower branches died because I couldn't get enough light to it. So remember, branches die. Only branches die if you don't give them enough light. Okay, that's the other bit. So I want to try and create something like that, but in this tree. Maybe, so I'll show you, that's probably the front of the tree. Now, again, I've pre-wired it because the last thing you guys want to do is watch me wire. All right, so this is the next step in the phase. So this tree's now got the trunks, got the movement, just needs the foliage pads in the right area now. Okay, it's a step-by-step process, yeah? So I'm going to try and see how I go. Again, the thicker wire on this is quite close together. And the reason I do that is I want to really try and compact this tree. See how compact I can get it. It'll be a bigger version than that one, but I'm going to try and get to something like that. Again, I'm just bending, twisting, using both hands. If you have thick enough wire, it's very easy to achieve. Oh, it's so quiet. So quiet. You want to hear the snap, don't you? While this tree is not like that immediately, I've at least got the cascade part kind of in the position I want. It's compact, nice and tight now. I'm trying to create an apex with some of these branches, just move them around, put them in place. It will need a trim. I'll give it a little trim and you'll see how easy these are to trim. And now I'm going to try and see where I can put the apex, the top of the tree. Let me have a look again. How do I do that? Okay, you got a little one there. It's a bit big, but that's all right. So we need some side and then an apex. It's always good to look at other trees. That's a really good example. So why not use a good example to create your trees? So this is probably the most important part. That's probably going to create the whole apex, the whole top of the tree. So I've got to be very careful not to break that. So you can see the problem in this tree is this branch, for example. There's not much branching there. It's all at the tip. You can fix it by compacting. Or trying to compact as much as I can. And that's just going back, forward, sideways, up, down, all the directions, three-dimensional, to try and compact it. And if it doesn't survive, oh well, there's a nice gin. Okay? I found that you can get these to back bud. It's about how much sun you give it, how much food you give it. Simple as that. Not as much as about cutting back. It's more about the sun and the food. You can get into back bud like crazy. And it's usually crotch growth. Do you guys have you heard of crotch growth? Crotch growth. So you'll have two branches like this, right? And they might be a bit leggy and a bit of foliage on the top. And then you get a little new shoot right in there. Okay? And sometimes, usually you're told, get rid of that. But if you've got two long branches with no foliage at all until the top, you get rid of this one and then this one will grow. And then usually you get another one somewhere further down because you cut this one off and you get two new little crotches growing and that's your new branches. Okay? Does that make sense? It's crotch growth? Yeah, it's usually you're told take it off because if you've got a more established tree, you've got to take those bits off because they waste the energy. Yeah. Yeah. But that's more on established trees. So luckily I'm not wiring, right? See how boring it would be if I wired? I'm just positioning branches. Now when I'm positioning, all I'm doing is twisting back, forth, trying to compact them, out here, back, forth, to there. All right, so I'm slowly getting it closer in. Now I've just the apex. We'll see how we get the apex down. It's probably not as, this is probably too tall now, I think. So again, I'm going to go back, bring this around. That wasn't a crack, that was the wire bumping on the thing. I promise you. You'll hear the crack. But at this time of year, they don't crack. I reckon if you did this in midsummer, snap, you'll hear it straight away.
So you let it dry out?
The crack?
The soil?
No, don't. Regardless. The soils, for me, is irrelevant. It's all about the time of year. I know people say, yeah, let the soil dry out, but I find this is pretty wet and I can do this, no problem.
And so in the summer when you put it in the red sun?
Yep. Oh, yeah. So I water a lot in summer. So they're probably almost overwatered in summer rather than under. So they would probably never ever dry out in summer. Does that help?
But you don't see them as...
No, I don't sit them in water. No, definitely not. But I definitely water them a lot.
I think that overwatering thing comes down more with azaleas in the cities.
Yeah, I've never had any problem with overwatering Shimpaku as well. Yeah, I know I've heard that, but I haven't experienced that. Yeah. Okay, so now we're starting to see a nice little semi-cascade. Okay. It wasn't that hard. It was a bit of wire, right? Bending in certain ways. I mean, I think it'll be very close to that. I'll give it, it needs a little trim. So it's very simple. You just look at the long shoots. It's just reducing back the long shoots. Now, I think you've been told many times, right, don't pinch junipers. Have you heard of that? Don't pinch your junipers. It's like understanding what pinching is important. What they're talking about is don't go pinch. Don't do that to the foliage, okay? You can go in and like find a branch and pinch that whole branch off, okay? What I'm trying to say is when it comes to this, for example, see how there's a shoot here? You go in and find where you want to cut it and then cut it off. Cut once so that only that spot there browns. Now, if you went and went pip, or hedge trimmed it or whatever, you'll have 100 spots that brown. Does that make sense? And it doesn't look nice. The tree will cover, I think, but it looks terrible having brown tips everywhere. Okay, so go in with scissors anywhere you want to cut and start to cut. Look down, find the branch, the part you want to cut and cut it off. It's only one cut. Okay, find the branch where you want to cut and cut. And I can do this now because it's a good time of year to do it on Shimpaku. They look really good. This is when you get them looking good. How was your sales day? I couldn't get here. Was it good? Did the sales day happen here? Did Mike Simonetta come? Oh, did we bring Shimpakus? Oh, he's probably sold them all out because he's that good of a grower. Yeah, I know. You got to go to his place. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they're very popular. What kind of Shimpakus are they? Kishu? They look like Kishu and they're nice and the foliage is really nice and tight, which is good. Like if no one buys them, I'll buy them all off you. Honestly, they're that good. They're really good. I'm honestly, guys, they're good material. I don't even know it. What's your name? I don't even know your name. promoting you already. But anyway, every time you find good stock, you got to get it. So quickly, give it a nice little trim. Haven't done much. Just give it a quick trim. You can trim it up really heavily if you want. I can go back and wire these branches as well if I wanted to. The branches that actually are woody. And it's a nice little tree. It's got this is the most best bit. The twisted up 2 trunks. That's going to look really nice. I'm really happy with this tree, you know. Sometimes I'll do 10, for example, 10 of these trees, right? And I probably only keep 1 because I really liked it. The others I'll move on. Isn't that right, Dean? Yeah, you end up moving on just, you got too many but that's quite nice. I really like that. All right, I'm going to do one more. This is much older. Like, can you see the trunk on that? It's much older. All right, this is going to be a challenge a little bit, okay? It's a bit older tree. What are we going to do with it? Do we just have so the other thing is, I like small trees. I like really small, compact Shimpakus. I do have Shimpakus that are this big, but the trunk's probably this big, yeah? But it's this size tree. And it's more formal, I've got a couple of those more formally kind of clouds and pads and so on. But I really love these little guys. They're easy to look after as well, easy to carry, not that hard. So I had an idea for this tree and I can't remember what it was. I did want to show you a couple of things, I think. I will do some big bends and twist them up and so on. Again, I was thinking, I love this movement in this tree here, in this trunk part here, this really nice movement here, and it's the thickest part. And then I've got this nice little trunk over this side that I can do something with. But then I've got a really nice, this apex is quite nice, with not a nice foliage, but it's very high. The foliage is too high. And then I've got 2 branches here. What's wrong with them? Very leggy, and the foliage is at the end, yeah? I'm thinking I want to do something with them. Now, I had a back branch here. It was a sacrifice branch. Okay, I'm going to leave that on. Okay, so tonight you're going to see that on, even though I'll probably cover it with something if I can, hide it, right? But that's a sacrifice branch that I will air layer off. Don't waste good material. I'm very greedy. Don't waste it. Very easy to air layer that off. That will let grow. I mean, this part's really nice and fat. Then I can twist this up and create something small and cute and be a cool tree. But my goal tonight, I want to show you what I'll probably do with these. I'm going to leave these to the end. All right. I'll move them out of the way. And I want to try and work on this and this and try and create something. Okay. So usually with Shimpaku, you find that they'll have multiple trunks, sometimes trunks that are dead on this side, which is good. That's what you want. You want the older stuff looking good. My idea was I want to see if I can get this trunk very compact and reduce the tree to be a small tree. So I'm going to try and get it around.
I don't know whether you can do 2 things at once, Dave, but if you can talk about how you feed trees.
Yeah, people are going to laugh when I say this. Because I hate to say this, but I'm lazy. I don't know if you're on the same boat. I'm a very lazy feeder. Like, I start off the growing season all excited. Yes, I'm going to feed my trees every couple of weeks or every month, They always say, yeah, you got to feed every couple of weeks and do this and do that. And as I start off really well, do the first feed, and then I go, okay, I've got to plan my next feed for this date and so on. And then guess what? I forgot. And I keep forgetting, and then I go, oh yeah, I remember now, I'll do it now. And then I feed when I can, and that was really bad. It was slack. You shouldn't be like that. So, if you got an osmocote and stuff like that, you can get away with stuff like that. But then I found, I know Lindsay was at the BSB meeting where I said this. I found, I'm not a sponsor, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. What the hell was the name of it? I forgot. Well, come to me. But there's this pellet. It's a small pellet. It's a brown small pellet. Oh my God, I forgot the name. No, not dynamic lifter. No. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. It'll come to me. It'll come to me eventually. It's just a pellet, like imagine an osmocote, but it's brown. And what's one of the main growers? Who's one of the biggest? Not Nutricote. No, not Nutricote. Oh my God, I'm gone. You know when you have those blank moments? I've just had a blank moment. It'll come back to me, yeah. Yeah, so I'm very lazy now, and I love this product. And it's brown, and you apply it on the top of the surface, and guess what? You can't even see it. Like Osmocote stands out. What's a guard? Not. Yeah, it's like Osmocote, but it's brown. It's brown. It's not dynamic. No. Dynamic. I used to do the tea bags, put dynamic lifter in there. Tea bags just look terrible on your bonsai, but it works. But they look terrible, right? This product is brown. Can't see it, and it does an amazing job. Like I just remember to apply it every 8 weeks or something, and it's easy, and it just feeds slowly. And last year I did it. My trees were the healthiest they've been. I cannot believe I can't remember the name of it, and I promote it everywhere. Oh man, it's so embarrassing. I'll come to Rich Grow. Could it be Rich Grow? No, not Rich Grow. One of the big ones. Oh, I feel so stupid now. But yes, sorry Patrick, that's my answer. I'm a very lazy fertilizer. So I found this product. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Yeah, Bunnings. It's a green circular tub. Power Feed. Oh my God, how did I forget Power Feed? Power Feed, the most common brand. Told you something common. And it's a small pellet. It's a brown pellet. It's bloody brilliant. It's so good. Like I was using it. I told Quentin. And he goes, yeah. I found that too, and I've been using it as well. It's like just by chance. Like he's using it as well, and you see his trees are nuts. And you're using it too. It's embarrassing. It's that good. So it's Power Feed. It's Power Feed. It's granule. It's so good. And it's brown. You can't even see it on the soil. It looks like just part of your particles. It's like it's hidden. I think I do have it on some of these trees. Oh, well, there you go. Even better. I'm not sure. Well, there you go. You're ahead of me. You found it before me. It's so good. I can't vouch for it enough. Oh, it does. I just get that. Usually lasts me a season. Yeah. Usually can last me a season. Right. I fertilize my pines all the time. If you got pines, fertilize them all the time. Don't stop fertilizing. Because Melbourne conditions, they still grow regardless, I found. Junipers too, they still grow. The only thing that doesn't grow is deciduous trees. They're going to sleep, right? But honestly, these guys are growing in winter. The only ones that probably, anything in a stock pot grows, anything in a bonsai pot starts to almost go. Have you noticed when it's really frosty, they go brown, purpley? Yeah, we've got one? Oh yeah. Oh, there. Look at this. It's almost brown. It does it all the time, and you freak out. If you're new, you freak out. You go, there's my prize bonsai going brown, and I didn't do anything to it. But that's normal. That's because they're in not much soil, and they just get frost, and they just bounce back. They go green. All of mine go back to green. Yeah, they protect them over there. Yeah. Well, there you go. I should have time to get to that. That's a stunning tree. So we'll get to talk about a couple of these trees, but I just want to, this is my last tree that I'll talk about in style before I get into, we'll talk about some other stuff. But I'll just show you quickly. You can kind of see, behind all this, you can see a nice little tree in there now. Remember how tall it was? It's a nice little tree there. It does, where are these? These are back branches. It's probably got too much branching now. All right. Remember, that's a sacrifice. We'll hide that. These are probably going to be cut off. Not just yet. Who loves wiring trees? Does everyone love wiring your trees? It's good. Do you guys like? Yeah, pines are good. Who uses? I use aluminium when I'm growing and wiring. I use aluminium wire for stock, growing things like this. Anything that I can just hack, like twist up, and I use aluminium. But when I come to my display trees and fine trees, I use copper. Because copper is much more finer. You can't even see the wire on it. But you can see the wire on these quite clearly, right? So I display my trees with copper, and you can't even probably see it. Because it's almost the bark and the copper looks the same colour. It's that kind of, whereas aluminium, when it weathers, it goes silver. Have you noticed that? The aluminium goes to silver rather than dark, whereas copper goes from a light brown to a dark brown. So it's really good. But only use it for, you don't want to use big pieces, you don't want to stick, but use fine wiring. It's really good. Copper is really good.
Do you remove your wire by cutting it?
Yeah. These ones, yeah. Because these are really condensed and really tight. I want to see what happens with this tree now. I might not like that bit. I like this tree. So I'm trying to think on the spot here, which happens when you're doing demos. I think there's going to be I'm starting to see there's a really nice little tree here, just this little tree. And there's some back branches here that I can move around into the side and so on. I'll have to hide this, but so what I'm thinking, this is going to be painful because I don't think this will be a convincing tree, this part. I don't know. I'm going to play around with it, see if I can put it in its spot. And if it comes up good, we'll keep it. If not, then we won't keep it, okay? But one thing I wanted to show you quickly before I do that, while I have a think about what I'm going to do, is what I'm going to do with these two. Now, I've wired them up, right? I've wired them up and I think they're not going to be good. Even if I condense them really tight, they're not going to be that good, okay? So you know what I'm going to do? Who said Ginham? Yeah, Ginham. So I just want to pretend I put the wire on, so then I have to take it. So now I take the wire back off, right? I don't cut it off because, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to gin it, the whole branch, but then I'm going to rewire the branch, the dead branch, and put it in part of the design, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. So when it's fresh, when a gin is fresh, you can still bend it. Okay? More chance to crack it though. I found even when I take the bark off, it's more chance to crack it. Now, the only problem is, at this time of year, trying to create a gin is very hard because the cambium isn't flowing through the sap very fast, and it's really hard to peel the bark. So we'll give it a go. And if it doesn't really work, I'll just cut the branch and then I'll wire it, and you guys can see what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Because imagine there's nice twisted up gins just in here. It would actually look pretty cool. Anyway, I could see it pretty cool. Well, I just want to see how I can I've just done this one. I want to see how easy I can get the bark off. So, who wants a cutting? Anyone want cutting? Cuttings are very easy. Cuttings, just chuck them in any soil and they grow. Let's have a look if this bark peels off easy. So I'm just squashing. Everyone knows how to gin, maybe. Just squash with pliers the whole branch. Squash it as much as you can. And I'm hoping it peels off easy. If it peels off easy, then we keep cooking. Oh, it's not too bad. Nah, No rush. Let it dry out and then put it like later. And usually with lime sulfur, all you need to do is spray the deadwood. Spray the deadwood with water, sorry. So before you put lime sulfur on, spray the deadwood with water so it absorbs the lime sulfur quicker. I just found it works really well. Even in like the heat of summer, it's like, yep, just do that and it works really well. If you try and put lime sulfur on dry wood, it stays yellow for ages. I don't know if you notice, it stays yellow, right? So then I've learned, spray water just with a spray bottle, and then just it'll be white within like 5 minutes. You got the white already. So there's another little branch up here. Just cut it off. I'm not gonna twist that one up. So let's have a look. So I've just twisted it up into some funky shape. I'll probably work on it, but that's how easy that was. That will be much better than having a long branch that would twist it back up. Does that make sense? Is that okay? So I'll just chop this one off and I'll bend it in place and I'll do the work another time. Let's have a look where you're going to be. So there will be a gin there, but I was just working on this, trying to get this more compact, so you guys can see what I try and envision. So I think it's going to be much more interesting to have a small tree in there. It'll be a nice little mini with a fat trunk.
We just sacrifice that air layer off.
This one's definitely an air layer. Who said? Yeah, that's an air layer. I'll do that later. I don't want to cut it off. But imagine it not there. It's not too bad. You can start to see what I'm thinking, right? It's a few gins, that, and then I'm thinking this. I'm going to see if I can put it into a smaller tree cascading down. And if it looks good, we'll keep it. If not, we'll gin it as well. Okay. It might be okay. Sometimes you go into these things, with a plan and then things get like, nah, that looks rubbish. Got to change my plan. But what I was saying before, I've got these back branches that are sitting. See how they're sitting out back here? These back branches are in the back. Now I can easily bend them into the side branches over this side, which is what this tree probably lacked. So now if I hide that, you can see the side branches now here. See side branch? They were from the back, but you wide them around. So it's coming. I mean, it's a nice tree. Probably too tall. I want to get it shorter.
I think what I've been right in saying is like speed dating with bonsai because you've got a lot of foliage. You can actually bring it down and make it nice and compact and make the bonsai very quick versus a black pine that makes a lot of that.
Black pine's forever. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You can get these trees, minis in shows in 5 years. I mean, it's pretty hard not to. All right, I'm going to see if I can do something with this before I cut it off. It might look okay. Well, it might. But I want it to be pretty small. But do you guys notice how easy it is to bend? I'm not really doing much applying. I don't apply raffia. Don't apply rubber, sticky tape, or whatever they do to bend big trunks. Don't do any of that. Just heavy enough wire, tight coils, and you can bend everything. Who's going to try it? It's very fun. And it's creative. Like you can have a bit of fun and try and create different things with it. And again, all I'm doing is compacting each branch. So branch is this, compact it, squeeze it, it's back here. So who loves Shimpaku now? Who loves Shimpaku before this? I know Dean does. Yeah, there's a few. It's really a lot of fun. And who loves maples? Yeah, everyone? Yeah, everyone loves them. They're like the best. They're like indestructible, aren't they? Just about. Do you ever find maples like indestructible? Like, I love them. Maybe that's why I love those species, because they're really hard to kill. Tridents are hard to kill. Japanese maples are probably a little bit more sensitive, but tridents are just ridiculous. Yeah, you probably, if you kill a trident, even if you didn't water a trident for like, it'll bounce back, you defoliate and it'll come back. It's amazing. It's pretty close. Whereas black pines are a bit, a bit harder. Even white, like if you can get good white pines, they're even worse, even more difficult. I might keep this for now. I might keep it. Do you see that nice little tree there now? So luckily we didn't cut it off. But again, this is a nice little tree. You can see how well it's going to be, And I'm just going to, as I said, it's a sacrifice branch. I don't want to show you that. But I think it's going to be nice.
5 years, it'll be very nice, won't it?
Won't be that long. Won't even be that long. I reckon 2 years and the wire will come off, and then it's just another year probably just fine, and it'll be like beautiful. It'll be beautiful, yeah. And there's just a matter of filling out. But a year or two, probably the wire, and then if you keep working on it, I should wire all these branches and set them now. But that's an hour's work. I'm not going to do that now. That's what I would do right now with this. Every single branch, clean them up. Anything underneath, take off. Anything, when you've got a branch, anything growing down, take it off. Okay? Little things like that. But yeah, so some deadwood on this side. I might even have more deadwood on this side, because then it tells a story. It's a story that it's gotten belted on this side for some reason, and the tree's starting to make its way this way. Direction is this way. The cascade's going this way. So something's happened on this side, maybe against the mountain, and these branches got just killed off. That's another story you can tell. How's that look, all right? So, these little guys, this was, I think what happened with this guy, I air layered all these branches off here. These are branches. Branch, air layer, branch, air layer, branch. You'll have a look at these heavy gins. Branch, air layer, branch, air layer. What was I left with? A couple of branches left, a little nice fat base that I made a mini out of, But I got 5-6 trees out of this. And now it's a nice little one that's on, a few more years' work, but how nice is that base? How nice is that root spread? It's short and fat. It does beautifully in this little pot. I mean, that's what that was. Okay, air layering stuff off is amazing. Talked about that. Yeah, this is just an old tree. This was actually a trunk up here. I just didn't like it, so I eventually ginned it off, and it's much nicer, much more interesting, much more interesting to look at and work on. Yeah. All right. Do you want to have a chat about some of the trees? Good point. Excellent question. So, for example, this guy, what happens is when they're in a bonsai pot, this is when you start to really want to get into the foliage work. Like when they're growing, you can do it, but it's not as accurate. That's not the word. When they're growing like that, it's hard to keep them on top of it. Let's put it that way. So for example, when this is growing and it's in a plastic pot, it's got a lot of food resources, it'll put out huge shoots in summer, spring and summer. All right. Come autumn, I go in and start cutting all that back. And once you start cutting it all back, it actually creates the pad. It really starts to form. If you've got the branching in place, you can get the pads working. You remember, you've got to wire all your branches out, wire them just like normal, wire them, fan shape, branches, in a fan, the same process, like in a nice fan. And they'll all grow, and you start cutting back, and it actually just starts to form really nice pads. That's how really easily it works. But then when you get to this stage, what happens is the shoots aren't as prolific. You'll see them come up, and you probably, because this has been growing over spring and summer, and you go, hasn't moved. You think it hasn't moved, right? But it actually has. So usually you just come in and start to go, you got to do it slowly. You go in, start to cut back. And there's all this inside foliage that just is exposed. And it just becomes a beautiful pad. Like, it's just that simple. Just time it right. So let it grow in spring and summer, and then come back, cut it back in over the autumn to winter, whenever you get time, and it just starts to fill out really well. Okay, and you just start to develop the pads. But you just got to go in with scissors and cut those shoots out that start to go out of control. And then you just, again, wire the pads out. Always have to wire all the branches. Just don't do the main branch. Always do the sub branches as well. Like once they're woody enough to wire them out. Okay, don't wait. You got to wire everything. If you just wire the main branch, you're just going to get a branch with a bit of foliage on each side. You want the big fan, you want the big pad, and so on.